Hi everyone, I'm Bob Seiser. I teach biology at Roosevelt University in Chicago, and I'll be telling you about my experiences teaching immunology this past spring semester. The title of my talk, in case you didn't catch the reference, is a play on the title Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which was a 1964 movie directed by Stanley Kubrick. So in 2020, I started teaching a new class, new to me, uh, teaching teaching human immunology. Uh, I've been teaching for a long time. I've been working with the SENCER community for a long time, so I felt fairly well equipped to take on a new course prep. But I had a lot of the same questions that I always have about how to get started, what to include, how to make it engaging and active. Uh, would I be prepared to go through concepts that I hadn't thought about in many years? Would I be able to incorporate civic engagement and active learning in the ways that I really wanted to do? Would students be willing to commit to that and be part of that process with me? So it's exciting and fun to grapple with these things. And one of the things that I decided to do early on was to have a science in the news topic every week. So if I was going to do something new from immunology, I could talk about some other issue that was that was there to establish relevance and give some insight into what future practice might look like. First week of class, January 27th, I spent a few minutes on introductions, then I showed this picture, a newly published electron micrograph of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and I asked, so, what have you heard about this emerging coronavirus? I used an infographic. I came back to several points throughout the semester to kind of refocus our studies of the immune system on the immune response to viruses. So it was almost like taking an extended case study throughout the semester. And that was the way we began. As weeks went on, I spent more and more time every week talking about the coronavirus. We didn't have much time for other science in the news topics. Uh, we looked not only at uh, the emerging science and investigations, but the effects on daily life and global supply chains and uh, political issues. We started out the class every week with these kinds of discussions, and things got more and more immediate and more real in the minds of my students. And then things got really real around mid-March when we went into lockdown. So our group of nearly 35 students and myself lost the ability to meet together in one person. In Metro Chicago, confirmed cases, hospital admissions were increasing rapidly. We had to extend our spring break to give time for faculty to make the switch, and then went to remote learning as of March 20th. So coronavirus was no longer a case study. And I had a new set of decisions to make. Um, Now I was thinking, would I require everyone to participate in synchronous discussions? When would students get reliable information for their remote learning because I hadn't required a textbook? Uh, what would I do about end of term projects? How could I have students interact with each other? How could I do assessment in a meaningful way? One of the big things that I did decide to do was embrace the textbook. The publisher, Freeman, of the book that I was using, very graciously and wisely granted free access to the online course site that accompanied my recommended text, so it became a required text for the remainder of the term. I used interactive content, I assigned online quizzes, I recommended the adaptive learning tools. I used automated grading to free up some time for myself so I could prep. So I let the publisher and the authors take a greater role in my class, which is something I'm really not accustomed to doing, so that I had time and the students had the flexibility, so that we all had common points of conversation. I had to change my ways of interacting with students. I followed up with them after quizzes. I opened up breakout rooms in the Zoom session so that people could just chat with each other as they would when they were sitting in the classroom. And I also changed the ways that I talked about COVID. We looked at it as an opportunity to talk about how we make new discoveries and how we ask questions in science, how clinical trials are conducted, how diagnostic testing is conducted, how retrospective studies are designed. And we looked at the local level as well. We focused on local impacts, the relationship between individual actions and community spread. We looked at disparities in treatment and mortality. What does it look like in the city of Chicago? What does it look like in the suburbs? Where are there differences and similarities? Who gets affected? So there's so much data and so much to process, and I tried to be very selective about what I would bring out for our discussions. Of course, I needed help. My students needed help. So I tried to give a lot of flexibility in due dates and really changed my expectations for progress in the course. Um, I turned to departmental colleagues in our weekly, coffee breaks on Friday afternoons to just compare notes and get ideas. My university put more student support systems online, found some money to do need-based grants for students to just help them get through, because there were so many different things to think about. And I also tried to accommodate students by giving them the ability to choose what they wanted to talk about in those end of semester conversations. And as you can see from this list, only one person out of my class of 30-something students chose COVID-19 as their main topic. That was really telling for me. So through the whole experience, we really dealt with new realities of real-world learning. The whole experience became very real and immediate for us, and it went from case study to lived experience. Because so many of my students were working in pharmacies or in hospitals or had family members who were otherwise at high risk, I sensed that students wanted to learn about immunology. They wanted to learn about the novel coronavirus, but in their academic work, they also wanted to have that sense of direction. They also wanted to have, the structure and even control that they may not have been able to have still in other parts of their lives. So I didn't want to make the class all about COVID, because they needed some place to go. And that really got me thinking about what SENCER does and how and what engagements and responsibilities means in the name of that acronym. So I was reminded in stark terms that sometimes the world engages you in unexpected and unwelcome ways, and I got a new sense of what responsibilities means. So in the midst of the pandemic, there were new responsibilities on my part. First, to help students make sense of the science and take an evidence-based approach to risk and decision making. And secondly, to give my students a common set of tools, goals to meet, time to work toward their goals, and space to find their own balance during a time of disruption. It's a quick acknowledgement of the sources and images that I've used in this presentation, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your questions, comments, and experiences, and to give feedback on this. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I look forward to talking with you.